Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 20th of March 2020. Um, Everything good here in Bali. The sun is shining, it's beautiful, it's very quiet. The island is slowly emptying for tourists. They've decided to stop issuing a visa on arrival visas to temporary short-term visitors, which means that tourists will actually no longer be able to visit Bali, which will be pretty devastating for the local economy. I'm quite concerned about that because I think it's about 80% of the income to Bali is from tourism, and so if you knock that on the head, then there's going to be massive layoffs and jobless situations. So that's a bit of a concern, I think, for many of the people here. We live in the kind of in the bush in the countryside, so we won't feel that so much here. I suppose we live more in an agricultural area where we're surrounded by a lot of farming, so typically rice farming. So we buy a lot of our food from directly from the farmers, and so we won't feel it so much. We can still get toilet paper, for example, where we are, and stuff like that, and we can buy rice from the rice farmers and the fruit and veg from the fruit and veg farmers. So no big changes here. My only concern is, as I mentioned in the last symposium, was the visa run. That's kind of a challenge now because they're slowly closing the doors on every country in the region. Typically, we'll go to Singapore or Kuala Lumpur to do our visa runs, but now we're no longer able to go into these places, so it's kind of a concern for us. So I don't know what will happen. We don't have to leave for another 50 days or so, so we still do have some time, and hopefully things will have quietened down and opened up by then, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe we'll have to travel far to do visa runs. I don't know what's going to happen. Or hopefully the government will say, you know what, we'll temporarily stop visa runs, and so there's a lot of challenges at the moment, I think. Then you have people like Donald Trump who are telling people to go and buy guns and ammunition so they can defend themselves from other Americans who are perhaps a little bit more desperate, which I think is a really horrible idea. But we'll see. I think in a place like the U.S. where there's no support for the low-income families, I mean, these people, as I mentioned previously, I mean, they're still forced to take public transportation to get to work, because if they're not working, they're not going to get paid. And so these people are going to get sick, potentially, if this stuff spreads as much as the Center for Disease Control thinks it will. And it's going to be pretty widespread, I think, and then no one's going to be there to pick up the tab at the hospital, and so these people are going to be left. I think it's a pretty horrifying scenario. So I don't know. I hope it resolves itself. I don't know. Right, so the markets are selling off like crazy. Let's grab the headlines. Let's see what's going on. So these are from Bloomberg. So Bloomberg headlines. Italy deaths top China. UK Brexit chief isolates. Virus update. Power demand slows in Europe as virus lockdowns kick in. Yeah, oil crash wipes out 31 billion from industry investment plans. That's terrible. The 5 days with world economy's guardians are so small fought virus and market turmoil. Yeah, oil extends record gain in wild week as Trump wades into tussle. Steve Cohen's 0.72 quant unit falls 22% in March. So again, pretty pessimistic headlines, I think. And so we're going to expect some pretty bearish markets. We look here at the S&P 500. I mean, it's sold off. I mean, look at this. If you go to the monthly chart, I don't have any more data, and it hasn't. I mean, it wasn't the. I mean, this is the worst month of trading ever, from what I can see, and this goes all the way back to the beginning of 1998. So I mean, that tells you something. If you look at 2008, we're about right here. We had this tiny little sell-off. I mean, look at this one. I mean, this is massive. This is massive. And look, it took months for this to finally kick in. I mean, this happened over 2 months. Over 2 months. It's staggering. And so, I mean, it's kind of telling us what's going on, and I think we're in for a real shitstorm in the relative near future. So it's quite concerning. But it's not only there, it's also in Australia. You're seeing the same thing. I mean, look at that. Just gapping down. A nice area of demand just here. Beginning of the buy zone is here. So this might be a nice discount price that you could employ to get back in at a very attractive price. If we look at China. Yeah, kind of selling off here. If we look at the UK, massive sell-offs as well in the UK. Germany, yeah, just tore through that monthly demand. Yeah, so it's looking pretty horrible. If you look at Spain, I mean, selling, selling, selling. France, Hong Kong, Italy. I mean, look at that. That's unbelievable. It's absolutely horrifying. Japan, what do we have there? Probably gap down in a minute once I download data. And that's where we're at. We have Euro stocks like the index. Yeah, it's selling off. So people are hemorrhaging. United States, have a look here. Yeah, it's looking pretty bad, as you can see. So very, very, very negative landscape for the time being. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. A lot of people are expecting Bitcoin to be a natural place, a natural safe haven to move out of like traditional monetary policy and support something a little bit different, but this doesn't seem to be playing out as expected. We've had these massive sell-offs, and we spoke about this area of demand a while ago. We spoke about this one here, and we spoke about this one here being a pretty attractive area because this is where this is the origin of the area. This is the demand that took out this supply, that took out this demand. And I'll just draw that out just so it's fresh in our memory. So we had this, it was tested a bunch of times. We had this area here. See, that was gone, and now price cut through it. This is the area that did it. And this is the origin of the move. Okay, the origin meaning like kind of the point, the turning point. So it turned around here, turned around from here, and then it went up. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. And now we have a weekly downtrend in place. We have downward sloping market structure on the monthly and the weekly time frame. So that's pretty enormous. Okay, so the really nice reaction on this weekly demand. I know a couple of guys that got in there, which was great. But you're looking, I mean, this is pretty bearish. Okay, and if you continue to look at this, I mean, where could price go? I mean, this has been tested. Price, I'm thinking, is probably going to rally higher, and then find some supply and continue lower. If we look at some, yeah, there we have a pretty nice one there. We have this beautiful area of supply. We could move through it up to here to close the gap, and then continue to wriggle lower. If we look lower, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, this is really, okay, that's really far away from price. Let's focus on the more realistic scenarios. What we have, I need to go to the weekly, otherwise I'm not going to see. Yes, we have this. This is a nice area. This is a really nice kind of, well, 57 bucks. We're not quite there yet. Hold your horses. Let me see if I can find this. Where do we have the departure? Here, so here we have a nice departure. Just here, so price came up, we came down, we moved up, and then this whole run originated from here. So I'm thinking something around here. This is roughly where the slingshot was pulled back to, just here, before we left. So I'm thinking the 28.18 is a really nice area. On my telephone I found another one, but it's pretty difficult to see on this on MT4, but there was an area that was lower as well, a little bit lower, kind of down in here somewhere. But this is a really interesting area because price, I mean, the origin of this huge move is here. The slingshot was pulled back to here, price came close to it, we rallied higher, and now we're poking into this, and we're looking to move a little bit lower. So this is an interesting area to look to accumulate long orders, I think. But we'll have to wait and see what happens once and if price manages to get there. I posted a couple of levels in the forum, and those were taken from my mobile telephone, which was a little bit clearer than these charts here. And I also posted a video where we discussed this area just here, which we posted back in September, and we thought this would be a pretty interesting area that price would react at. We also considered this one here, just because of the sheer push of the move away from this area. So a lot of interesting things going on here, but I mean, Bitcoin is not looking to be the asset that people are looking to acquire as the mainstream world falls to pieces, and this is being seen very clearly. Maybe people are selling out of Bitcoin to cover their positions elsewhere in the market, I don't know, but this is selling off, and it's selling off in a hurry. And we thought it was overvalued. We've thought that for a very long time, and I think price is just returning to a more reasonable price, because $20,000 for a Bitcoin is ludicrous. Okay, good. Let's have a look at something else. Let's have a look at the Aussie dollar, American dollar. Let's move this higher. Okay, so the Aussie dollar, and before we do anything, we're going to look at the Aussie dollar, Swiss franc. Let me see, where's the data? Okay, so Aussie dollar, Swiss franc. This one is sold off. You can see we had enormous divergence here. Okay, let's put this on the weekly daily. Let's put this on the smaller time frames. Good. And now you can see that we had a huge departure, and now price is moving nicely back. This is huge. This is very, very overextended. And so now we're poking, looking to move higher. Let's have a look at what it was that price poked into there. So marking off the low. Let's scroll left. If I have any data. Using another broker just to see if I had more data, because I use these guys for a lot of my development. I've used these guys. This is actually the broker that I've been using the longest. And I was having a look at a bunch of different other brokers just to see what they were up to, but I wasn't getting a lot of data, which is a blow. Okay, where are we? I still don't have data. I simply don't have enough data. So I mean, the price has not been back here for a very, very long time, essentially, which is all we can see. And so there's no demand for this kind of anywhere in sight. Okay, and so you can see very clearly that, I mean, we have the Swiss franc that is diverging pretty strongly, and we have the Australian dollar. I mean, the headlines in relation to Australia, rather, I mean, Australia is heading into recession and quickly. So that's quite alarming, I think. And so I think these rallies in Australian dollars are a good opportunity to sell into because of the impending situation over there. I just think that there's a lot of suffering over there at the moment. I think so. The economy is having a very difficult time, and so I think this is probably a good opportunity to start to move out of Australian dollars and into something yielding a little better. But if we look here, we have this interesting area here. We had a period of distribution, okay, and then price cut away. We went up a little bit, and then we started to wriggle lower. So if you look at this here, from the slingshot was pulled back, you could mark off something like that. That'd be an interesting area from about this point 6100 area. Interesting area. Let's see what that looks like on the weekly. Yeah, on the weekly, if we have a look here, we actually have this, which looks nice as well, about here. That's what we have there. Let me remove that. It's misbehaving. Bugger off. Okay, so let's draw another one. So we have from the high to here. Okay, so there's 6200. So between the 6100 and the 6200, I think we have some pretty some pretty nice supply there. Let's see what happens though here. I mean, this is looking pretty. I mean, a lot of people were looking to exchange some Swiss francs into Australian dollars, and you can see that this is what happened here. A lot of people have been doing this, and you can see the result of this just here, how price is just generating this massive wick bar here. Okay, and so I think if price comes up here, it'd be an interesting place to begin to entertain the notion of selling. If we look a little bit closer at the chart, you can also see that we had price kind of wriggling lower, left, move below this low, slingshot was pulled back, and then we left. So we have another area slightly higher, so we can do something like that. So this 6600 area. So we have a couple of areas that we could watch. This could be a very interesting place to start to move out of Australian dollars. And looking at this on the smaller time frame, I don't really like this all that much because of all this here. This is kind of like sideways price movement, then price is wriggling lower. But I don't know if price is going to move above that anytime soon because of what's going on. And so this is the one here that would be interesting, I think, for that reason alone. Okay, so good. So that's what we have there. Let's remove these and have a look at something else. Look at the American dollar, Canadian dollar. The American dollar has been moving north in a hurry. Here we have the Canadian dollar, which is the pink, magenta color, and we have the American dollar, which is the green one just here. And this has reached some pretty overextended readings. You can see how we had a huge divergence when we were up to 11 over 11 11.0 on the histogram, which is a really high reading, an incredibly high reading. Okay, the algo trader normally kicks in above 7, so 11 is a staggering reading. Okay, that's a very, very big reading. We go to the 4-hour chart. Yeah, so it's looking for 7 on the 4-hour chart, and the 7 is here. So we would have looked to get in at just about here, but price continued higher. It moved another 430 pips north before it finally petered out and is looking to move low. And you can see here we have some divergence here. We have lower, not divergence, but we have higher lows on the Canadian dollar. So the Canadian dollar index is looking to wriggle higher. We'll see how long that holds, because we do have this Russian-Saudi oil battle going on at the moment. But I'm thinking the oil will probably continue moving lower. But now price is kind of continuing to kind of move away from these extreme readings here. And if we have a look on the weekly, if we can see where we are, price just essentially has moved into the sell zone here. If we can see if there's anything to the left, yes. Wow, isn't that interesting? This is the one that we talked about years ago. This one right here, this distribution candle, we spoke about that. And this is where price went to. So that was a very interesting area. Price went all the way back there. That's staggering. Okay, and so now it's feeding off. So I think that would be an interesting area to try and sell at. So looking for a micro supply forming up at around this area here. And you can also use a histogram to look for divergence. But I think this is a really interesting place to look to sell shorter term. And this is exactly where price came to a few years ago. Monthly supply. This is a second time back, and price is kind of overextended. We have this gap that needs to rebalance. We have price inefficiencies here which need to rebalance. So I think the price could wriggle down for a little while until that is all rebalanced. If you look here, you can see that we have efficient trading here, and then we have the gap originating from here moving higher. And so I think we'll probably come back down to there before price figures out what it's going to do. So very interesting, I think. Just that. Okay, let's have a look at the pound American dollar. The pound selling off. Let's have a look where we are on the monthly. You can see here the price. I don't have any more data. This is as low as the pound has been in relation to the dollar. This goes back to early 1998. So price is looking to wriggle lower. You have to think about this as well. You have to be a little bit careful in a situation like that, because you have a rallying American dollar. And if you think, why is the American dollar rallying? The American dollar is rallying because it's a safe haven. But is it a safe haven? If you look at what's going on in the banking sector in the United States, the bond market is dried up. We have interest rates down at zero. And so this is an artificial attempt to prop up the American dollar. And this will not hold. I think it'll hold for a little while, but then people will start to realize that it's a little bit too risky. Then I think we'll see the American dollar sell off quite radically. I think there are some pretty stellar economists that have a view that is in line with that. I think that the American dollar is certainly going to sell off within the relative near future because of the state of the economy. I mean, things are falling to pieces over there. All of these lockdowns. I mean, my mother lives in Montana, of all places, as does my father and my brother, and they said that it's like a ghost town there. Nothing's open. Everyone's at home. No one's spending. So things are slowly going to hell in a basket, and I think things could get dangerous over there as well. I mean, Donald Trump's telling people to buy weapons, so they can defend themselves. It's like, Christ, it's insane, absolutely insane. Yeah, so we'll see. The housing market bubble, this could turn into a housing market bubble. We have the pension fund bubble as well, because the pension funds own the majority of the corporate debt in the United States. And these corporations are starting to go bust, and they will continue to go bust as this kind of this recession takes hold of the economy, and the pension funds are going to lose their investments, and this is going to obviously be very detrimental to the people who need these checks every month. So this is, I think, we're headed for some pretty dire times in the relative near future. Okay, but we have this selling off. We have this little continuation pattern. There's probably a nice little pattern in here that we could have a look at. Let's have a look. I need a 4-hour. Yeah. So price is just kind of moving away and moving lower pretty quickly from here. We have this, which I like. We have this, and we have this. I like this better than this. We'll see, but this is an area here, that 120.34. Price is rippling north pretty quickly, but if we have a look where we are, you can see, this one overlaps nicely with this here, so support becomes resistance, that whole game. Yeah, and that overlaps pretty nicely. If we go to the bars, it's pretty close to where the bottom of this 4-hour supply is located. So that could be a pretty interesting place, I think, to have a bit of a bounce there. We'll have to wait and see. Keep in mind that this is serious currency strength divergence. Be minus 14. These numbers mean nothing to you, but in my head, as the programmer, these are very extreme readings, and so I'm thinking this will probably want to rebalance a little bit, kind of bringing price higher, closer to the origin of this push lower here. And so I think it would be okay to look for short-term areas to buy at. We have something in here. We also have this one down here just below. So there's a lot going on there. Okay, so this could probably wriggle higher until we get back up to these levels here, and then I think, yeah, who knows? It's pure speculation. Good, so that's what we have there, I think. Let's move this. Okay, let's have a look at the American dollar, Japanese yen. Let's have a look at these two. Japanese yen and the American dollar. You can see here they're side by side. You can see we have the American dollar and the Japanese yen. Japanese yen purple, American dollar green, and they're moving sideways. And so this is kind of bringing price back to the mean. You can see we have efficient trading, price left, but we return to it. Okay, and you can see that here, and you can see that here as well. How we had the Japanese yen move higher, the American dollar move lower, which is what we can see here. And now price is rebalancing, and the two currencies are experiencing some balance for the time being. But price returned back to this area of distribution. Now we're starting to move away. If we have a look on the weekly chart, price looks like it went down to here. It went down to the buy zone almost. It went down to here. Slingshot was pulled back. We flew north. Price came back to it, and now we are moving off of that. And I don't know where we're going to go from here. If we have a look here, you can see. I mean, price has been back to these levels before. Here, price has already been back to here. So the only real fresh area, in my view, is up here. That doesn't mean that you can't do anything in here. It just means that the range is defined. This is the bottom and this is the top. So I'd be selling up here and I'd be buying down here, and price already left. So that means you could buy in anticipation it's going to continue to the other side of the range. Will it do that? We don't know, but we can certainly look at price and kind of try and make some educated guesses based on it. Here we have the test. We had this area. Price tested it. We came back 2 times. Price rallied. We formed this area here. Price came close to it. This is pretty efficient trading. And our price came back to here, and we're just reacting on this tiny little hourly supply. We have a look, see if we can find some small areas on the half an hour chart. We'll probably, I mean, this looks like a pretty interesting area just here. It's a nice push away. Price almost came to it, then we left, so the slingshot was pulled back, then it departed. And below that, I think we're going to have to go a little bit lower. And we have this just here, the 103.60-ish area. From this area, price went up, moved sideways, slingshot was pulled back, and we went north, we moved above this high. And so we have a few things to look at here. What we can do is we can take the currency strength indicator and we can say, hey, why don't you tell us what to do? So we'll turn on the scanner. I'll put this to 5 so we get extreme readings. And before we do that, we have to go to the 4-hour chart. Then we'll turn on the scanner. Set that to true. We'll put this on, let's say 7 first of all, and see if we get any hits. Yes, here we have some extreme readings here. So we have these. Let me turn these off. Let's have a look. So the Kiwi American dollar is very low. Let's have a look at that. So in other words, it's saying you could probably look to buy. Okay, we've got that reading down here. Look to buy, and correctly enough, price is starting to wriggle north from here. We have the same on the pound American dollar that we saw, -10. That's huge. And the pound Japanese yen. Let's have a look at that. Pound. Here, pound Japanese yen. This one was negative, so we're going to be looking to buy. And price is kind of wriggling up from there. As you can see, we have the pound Swiss franc. So the pound has been losing a lot of footing here. Here we are. So this is the same, low. Yeah, it looks very much like the pound Japanese yen. We have the euro Aussie, which is very high. Let's have a look at that. Euro Aussie, where are you? Man, all of these symbols are. Here. So this one should be very high. Yeah, this one already reached past 7. And this went up to 16. That's insane. Went up to 16, the strength divergence, and this is where it turned around from. So it's saying like the price is probably going to move down from here. Okay, so looking to sell a micro supply on these price moves would be an interesting idea. Australian dollar, Singaporean dollar. So this one should be very low. It is, and you can see this one as well is moving higher. We have the Aussie yen, similar situation. Just here. Yeah, the same accompanying, and also the Aussie franc that we saw there. Okay, so there's a lot going on there on the kind of 4-hour strength information, and you can see how these extreme deviations in price result in bounces like this. So extreme deviations, and then price pops north. Okay, and just to show you guys, I mean, this is a very effective and powerful tool. And what I've done is I put this on the account a couple of days ago, and what it's doing, I have the comments in here as well. Commissions, I can't see the comments. Maybe I can. Let's see. They got to be there. Comments. Okay, so the comments here on this trade here, we have, this is a strength reading. So this is 3 point. So this is the trend, the weekly trend, and this is the negative reading. So this was bought. This is very negative. This is a very negative reading. This is 6.8. We have a weekly trend going higher, so it bought. And we got 180 pips out of that move alone. Very interesting. This is another robot that's been running, so we don't want to look at that. We just want to look at this one. Here we had a negative weekly trend, and we have a high reading on the 4-hour strength deviation. So it's sold with the weekly trend at a strong at a push higher, and then price moved lower, and we got 250 pips out of that. We have another one here. We have a slight bullish trend here. We had a very negative reading on the 4-hour chart, and we got 160 pips out of that. And this one here we got about 46 pips. We had a slightly bullish trend, and we had a very negative push lower on the 4-hour chart. So what the robot is doing here is it's doing this. So it's looking for the weekly trend to be moving either higher or lower, and it's looking for 4-hour. It's looking 4-hour to do something like this, and when it moves down, then it buys it. It says call buy. It buys there because it's expecting the trend to continue moving higher. It looks, finds another one, it buys it. And the opposite here, where we have the weekly trend going down. So this would be the equivalent of a negative number like this one, and that's all we have there. And the positive would be for the uptrend. So we have this one. This is a positive, which is a buy. Positive, buy, positive, buy here. Okay, and so it's just looking for the 4-hour strength to move down very aggressively against the weekly trend. When it sees that, it buys it. Okay, and so the opposite for here, we have the weekly trend going down, so it's looking for like 4-hour strong rallies, and it sells it in anticipation that it's continue moving lower and follow the trend lower. So pretty fascinating stuff. And I got to keep this clean. I have 2 robots running, and this is a brand new account. I put $1,500 in there a couple of days ago, and it's got $1,620 in there now, so not bad at all. Okay, and there's like just a few days of trading, so pretty exciting stuff. And I'm not doing this to impress you. I'm doing this to press upon you that this software here is very, very, very powerful, and so you can use that to your advantage. So what I've been doing is I've been doing something. Let me move this out of the way. Where I've had a couple of charts like so. I'll put them like this. I'll put the histogram here. I'll put the histogram here. I'll put this on the monthly, the weekly, daily, and 4-hour, and then I'm going like this. So this is what the robot's doing. It's saying, okay, so we want this to be moving down. We want the gray histogram to be below the 0 line. We want this one to be moving higher, and we don't see it there. And we see it here. We see it here. You see how this is negative? And so it's saying this is a pretty high reading. We want to move above 7. So if it moves up a little bit higher, it's going to begin to sell the American dollar Swiss franc, because the weekly trend is ever so slightly, not really, but ever so slightly, it's moving slightly lower. And you can see that here. We have the histogram, lower highs and lower lows. So this is telling us that the trend is slowly turning negative. So we want to sell into strength on the 4-hour chart. Let's have a couple more examples. There's nothing there to do, nothing there to do, nothing there. So it's very picky. You can see, so there's not a lot to do on these ones. Let's see if I can find another one. No, everything's pretty lined up, as you can see. Things are moving lower across the. Okay, here we have this. We have the weekly chart. We have a pretty bullish stance on the weekly chart. If we have a look at it, maybe we can see it. Yeah, slowly starting to move higher, higher lows. Okay, and on here, it's going to wait until price kind of starts to move lower. He wants price to start to run at these lows here or these lows here. When that happens, then the robot will jump in and it'll buy it in expectation it's going to continue moving in the direction of this trend here. Okay, so pretty exciting stuff. So the tools are there, so please use them. Yeah, be careful. Here we have a bit of divergence. We have extreme negative reading. This is very, very bearish. And here we have divergence. Now we have price pushing lower, but you can see the two currencies aren't supporting that. So we can expect price to move higher from here. I'm going to close this gap, move up to this supply, and even move up to this, and potentially this resistance, and kind of move it towards this high. So there's plenty of room between here and where price currently is. And this is a very, very negative reading, so we can expect that this is going to move higher for a little while until it finds some sellers in order to push price lower. Good. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. We're up at 36 minutes. If you have any questions, please send them in. If you have any comments, leave them in us. And if you like what you're seeing, subscribe so you get updates. Okay, thanks for watching.